Hello and welcome to the Daily Conspiracy Podcast. We don't take days off because reptilians don't take days off. And it's dead cool. I love making podcasts. I love doing content creation and stuff like that because now and again we get to invite people on the show, and I get to invite people on the show that I've watched for ages before they come on. And Coach Colin, you absolutely fall into that bracket. So thanks for coming on the podcast, man.
Wow, man, that intro is incredible.
That's
so
it's Ollie's handiwork.
These tiny hands
on the video. And a big shout out to our friends Me Amour that allow us to use their music in our intro. They're a great band, and anyone should go and check them out. They're fucking awesome.
That's really, really cool. Because I've been thinking about an intro, and I'm like, I can't even grasp how I would do it. And that was actually very inspiring. I like that. I like the direction of that. You even had Elon in there doing his little Elon salute.
I know, yeah.
The Roman salute, you know?
Well, I was showing my my mate Crazy Stew your videos today, and it was the one where you were showing Charlie Sheen, where they basically find out that Charlie Kirk had died.
Yeah.
And he turned around to me and said, "You do realise that Joe Rogan is Aleister Crowley reincarnated?" And I'm like, "This is my mate is like he's been everything. He's been a flat earther. He's been absolutely everything. You name it, he's been it." But actually, now that I'm looking at that painting on your wall, it does remind me of Aleister Crowley.
Yeah. When I first started my podcast, countless people were like, "Why do you have a picture of Aleister Crowley on your wall?" Countless people would email me about it and comment about it, and I actually had to make a video. I'd be like, "This is a guy that worships DMT, not demons." At least we think. We don't know what's in the DMT realm, you know?
Well, like as far as the Aleister Crowley thing goes with Rogan, all I see when I see like jacked bald guys is everyone looks like an angry thumb. I think they all kind of look a little bit the same.
Yeah, that's a nickname for him, Toe Rogan. That's what some people call him, Toe Rogan.
That was it's what's his name, isn't it? I forgot his name. The comedian that went on a show and now hates him after.
Mark Maron. Yeah, he hates Rogan.
No. Who was the guy that he was on Rogan? Rogan tried to do like an intervene with him a bit, and
Douglas.
He ended up barbecuing himself with Joey Diaz on edibles, and then became a flat earther. Moved his family out to a farm.
Owen Benjamin.
John Benjamin. That's it. Yeah.
Completely fried his brain.
But like less about other people. What made Coach Colin become Coach Colin?
That's funny. Coach Colin, like if you go look at my first episode, I'm like wearing a vest and like a tie and like I'm like in dress clothes. And I started it because I was coaching. I was helping not only just the youth with like habit formation and integrity and things like that. I was helping older people as well, helping them break habits, form habits. I was working with some addicts. I was working with people who wanted to build up habits, and I was coaching them. And I was in my own coaching program, and my coach was like, "You should have like a declaration of who you are. Like you should not be so quiet about it." He's like, "You should really speak about who you are." And I just named the channel I Am Coach Colin because it was like a declaration. And then as soon as I got to like, I think it was like episode 3 or 4, I was like, I'm supposed to just be who I am. I'm like, why am I dressed in dress clothes? I'm like, I hate dress clothes. I'm like, I only wear hoodies. I only wear these hats. I only wear sweatpants. I'm like, what am I doing? So I just kind of dressed down. And then I always have this philosophy when it comes to content is you should make it something that you can do every day, something that you would do anyway. And for me, watching Joe Rogan was something that I do anyway. I was listening like 6 hours a day at Joe Rogan. I'm like, why don't I just talk about this stuff? Like, I have a perspective. I'm part of the audience. I'm like, let me just start talking about this stuff. So I started covering his stuff, and then that led me to James O'Keefe and Tucker and, politics and a whole bunch of stuff. And Yeah, that was it. That was it. And then the podcast took off because I learned about the World Economic Forum and I started covering them, started covering Klaus Schwab and his origins and his mentor and the Bilderberg Group, and started getting into like who, there's a lot of crossover with who's in the Bilderberg Group and who's in the World Economic Forum, and, who started the Bilderberg Group and who started the World Economic Forum and their ties to Germany back in the day, and like all sorts of stuff. So basically, that's just how the podcast took off. Got a video that had 1 million views when I was talking about Jordan Peterson and him combating the World Economic Forum, and that was it. And then the podcast took off, and I monetized, and that was it. It's just been a wild ride. That was like 3 years ago. 3 years ago, October 10th. That's when I started the podcast, October 10th.
Do you find, like, what's your favorite conspiracy that you've found while you've been doing all of this?
My favorite conspiracy is always going to be Hollow Earth. That is my favorite one. I love it. I love hearing about the fact that there is, because it just touches on so many things. It's Antarctica, and it's the reason that we can't go up there. And Admiral Byrd talking about flying over, seeing green pastures. If you look at maps in the 12th century, 11th, 10th century, they're all showing that there's something up there. And they show like a hole, they show like a vortex in these old maps. And then all of a sudden they just stop showing Antarctica. And then they're like, oh, we discovered Antarctica. Like in, I want to say 1800s or something like that. And I was just like, that's the favorite one, because there's a whole society in there. And if you know about Hollow Earth, it's not just that the Earth is hollow. They say the Atlanteans went down there, the Lemurians went down there. Every ancient culture that elevated their consciousness to this nth degree ended up going into the Hollow Earth. And I'm like, oh, that's my favorite one by far. I love it.
Do you remember seeing there was a video, we spoke about this, Lee, on the show before. There was a video that NASA put out, and it was a live feed that went up on YouTube briefly, and it showed something over Antarctica, and it showed a huge hole. And at the time, it didn't look like CGI, but the video disappeared. Do you ever remember seeing that?
No, if I saw that, that would have been the first thing I brought up.
Do you know what the wild thing is about this? I have an answer to that, Ollie, because I was looking for stuff. Yeah, no, I did it. I only like 2 days ago, I was looking for stuff, because something else we do on this show is I will do smaller episodes that we put 2 a month out, which are like 15-20 minute deep dives into a certain thing. I do those on my own. I was looking into Hollow Earth stuff because I want to do a Hollow Earth episode, and I was looking for this video. And what it is it's almost like someone's filming outside of a plane. Well, I'll dig it out for you, and I'll DM it to you. And it shows like a vortex and what almost looks like a fire, like inside a volcano in this like hole, which seems to be like the hole at like the top of the earth. And I found it where it came from this week, and it supposedly comes from like a straight to DVD movie. And I watched this movie, but the thing is, everything in this movie is fucking terrible. I've never heard of it, never heard of any of the actors are in it. The special effects are like, you might as well have made plasticine like men and thrown them at plastic buildings, apart from this one scene where they're they do this film and over like the Hollow Earth thing, and it could be out of a fucking Hollywood blockbuster, and you'd have took it. And the scene is so jarring, and me being like a conspiracy theorist and therefore insane person, start to think, have they injected an entire film around a leaked piece of footage to hide it?
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, that would make sense. Especially around that time.
Never heard of it.
Around that time, if you started talking about it, people would be like, oh, you believe in that stupid, terrible movie, right? They would point to that as why you're dumb about even believing in it remotely. Well,
that's something I've thought since the I don't know what you think of the MH370 videos and what Ashton Forbes has been doing, but
what are these videos called? Sorry,
it was the end of our end of our intro. There, where the plane gets zapped.
Okay.
So there's these videos. Do you know what? I'll pull them up for you because
just what's it called? I'm like taking notes as I go.
It's MH370. The Malaysian airliner that went missing.
370. Okay.
There is footage out there. Allegedly, the footage came out 4 days after the plane went missing, and it is from a satellite that shows the plane disappear. But there are two different angles. There is one that's being filmed from one of the drones, and here we go.
Oh man, let's see this. So that's the plane, yeah. For anybody watching, we're looking at a little plane here on a radar. It looks like.
Well done. We should know better than just to leave video playing in an audio podcast.
Yeah, no problem.
For it turns out we're terrible at our jobs.
And it's flying on course, it looks like. And then there's some things around it, 3 things around it, just circulating like in a triangle type of formation. And then what happens from here? This is very odd. And I have a story that's actually very similar to this. I did a video on it.
I'm amazed you haven't heard of this story.
This is the Malaysian flight, you said?
Well, apparently so. So there's a guy. He's been on our show quite a lot now.
And then it just disappeared. Okay. This is very interesting. You know why this is very interesting? I just interviewed a guy who was on Ancient Aliens. His name's Mike Ricksecker, and his specialty. He goes to Egypt. He's into ancient Egypt and everything like that. He was actually just mentioned on Rogan. He might actually get on Rogan one day. His friend as well. I'm supposed to talk to him. But they're like in the Graham Hancock world of things in terms of, wanting to uncover some truth aside from the original narrative that the Egyptologists keep trying to push on us, And his specialty is like portals and stargates. And he was talking all about portals. And I really wanted to talk to him about this because I've started to learn that occultists, they experiment a lot with portals. They go to places that have a lot of maybe dark energy around them, and they try to summon things through these portals. And then, I bring that up to say also in the UAP, not even UAP disclosure, but just the footage that we keep seeing, they keep blipping in and out of existence.
Yeah.
And people keep thinking that it's interdimensional. And after talking to Mike Ricksecker, I'm starting to think that a lot of it has to do with portals. And I mean, if it is interdimensional, then there is a portal component, but that looked like a straight up portal. Like it just looked like it just flew in. That was like Rick and Morty portal, just bloop, and it just took the plane out. And that was it.
So the really interesting thing about this is there's been a load of people talk about this. We were quite
the guy
lucky.
Was supposed to go on Joe Rogan as well, Lee.
Yeah. So Ashton, I heard him on the Higher Side chats, and I got in touch with him, and he ended up coming on our podcast when we used to be called Alien Addict. He's been all over the place. He's been on our show a few times. He's done like Danny Jones. He did.
Who's Danny Alex Jones the other day?
He's been Alex Jones.
Wow.
There was a concert. I think a hit on him actually. It was really weird because I really like the Danny Jones podcast. I really like Danny Jones. He seems like a really nice dude. Mm-hmm. But he got Ashton in, and that interview was framed to make Ashton look weird. Like it was really strange. I've never seen it before, and even we were watching it live because oddly, when the day Danny Jones put that episode out, Ashton was coming onto a live stream with us. So in order to have something to talk about, I was watching the premiere of that video, and even in Danny Jones's own comments, his own viewers were going like, "Well, hang on a second. Like last week we were talking about like vampire fairies as if they're real." And like this week, this guy's just saying there's a UFO video and you're like torching him for it. It didn't make sense with the rest of the stuff he had on. But you should definitely get Ashton on your podcast because it's a whole thing that's gone on now for about.
What's his
3 or
full
4
name?
years.
Ashton what?
Ashton Forbes.
Forbes.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird because Orbs is in his name.
That's very interesting. You know, I do believe that that happens. I've called out because, you know, I cover a lot of Joe Rogan content, starting to move away from it, but I've covered a whole bunch of it in the 3 years I've been doing this particular podcast. And sometimes, you know, I've called it out, and I even asked Eddie Bravo to his face, because Eddie Bravo had me on his podcast, and I was like, is there some kind of effort that to like silence you or make you look a certain way on Joe's podcast? And Eddie, if you don't know Eddie, good friend of Joe, he's right up there with Alex Jones, Sam Tripoli.
He's a flat earther as well, isn't he?
Yeah, he's that, and you know, jiu-jitsu expert, conspiracy theorist, OG conspiracy theorist. So he's a wild dude. But I asked him, and he's like, no. He's like, it's all just. He's like, it's me. I don't want to be on the. I don't want to. He's like, if you don't see me on the podcast, it's because I don't want to be on the podcast. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. But I did notice in some videos I did where Eddie would bring something up, and then it would be shooed away. It'd be very dismissed. And I'd be like, oh, that's weird. Like, you know, it's your good friend, you know, you're having this conversation. And then the same topic would come up with someone else. In fact, the comparison I had was Mark Andreessen, billionaire AI guy. He brings up the same thing, which is just talking about Laurel Canyon and whatnot. And Joe was like real into it. He's like, oh, Laurel Canyon. Oh, I'll write that down. I got to get that book. And I was like, why? I'm like, why is such a difference? Like, why do that? And people even noticed the same thing. They started messaging me right away when Sam Tripoli was on the podcast last, because they're like, it's like Joe was just dismissing everything he had to say. And I don't know, maybe there are things that happen like that. I think in Joe's case, the two people I'm talking about are really good friends of his. So, you know, sometimes when you're with your some of your best friends who are like brothers to you, you're going to shoo away what they say. Get out of here. You don't know what you're talking about. You know, you'll have that type of relationship where you can't really say that to some billionaire guy who's like on your podcast. But yeah, I believe that could happen with Ashton, make him look very odd.
Yeah.
I think, listen, I can't call out any names, but I do think it's odd how some people just pop up in the podcast and alternative media space.
Yeah,
they just pop up out of nowhere, and
crazy.
They're just getting all this exposure, and they're talking about things that should get them kind of suppressed, but it doesn't get them suppressed, and they're just like everywhere out of nowhere. I think there is something to that, whether it's the left or the right. I think something's going on there.
Yeah, it seems like they just pop up, and then when you look at the history, they do have a history. But you're like, how come I never heard of this guy before?
And the history will be very like there's a few, and I'm telling you, there's a bunch that I look into, and I look into the history, and I'm like, like this is very odd, because the history is very. There's like one guy who everybody's talking about now, and you look into his history in terms of YouTube, and it's like very non-existent. And then all of a sudden it's like TikTok, boom, big blow up, and then X, big blow up, and then everything is just this big blow up out of nowhere. And you're just like, how did that just happen? And the thing is, and you guys have been doing it for ages too. I've been in the podcast space for like 10 years, but I've been like producing podcasts and trying out things. And only in the last 3 years have I had any success. But when you've been at it for years and you see people like that, you're like, it hits differently, because a lot of people who watch podcasts, they're like, you don't know what you're talking about. He was just, you know, he had good videos and that's it. But we kind of know it doesn't really just work like, oh, he had some good videos. Like there's a lot of grinding that has to take place. But
yeah, because everyone's trying to ride the same algorithms. So it's not just a case of like, oh, you put the right tags in and then you'll hitch onto something and it'll take off, because everybody's trying to do that. On the Joe Rogan side of things, where with him being like strange with different guests, I found it weird the other day actually, stuff about conspiracy stuff. Like, oh god, his name escapes me now. The fat dude, the comedian, he's hilarious.
Tim Dillon,
yeah. And like all of a sudden, Joe Rogan's like, oh yeah, he says, oh, you know, it's then people lose control, and that's when you get Pizzagate. And then Joe Rogan's like, yeah, but like I could send you a documentary. There's something weird about that. I'm like, hang on a fucking second. Joe Rogan's talking about fucking Pizzagate now. What's going on here?
Man, yeah.
You just know Joe Rogan is, you know, he's sat at home watching a documentary on flat Earth and gone, it could be flat.
Oh,
you know?
I think Joe Rogan's a flat earther.
He's very good friend. Like him and Eddie Bravo, they're like best friends. Yeah. I interviewed Eddie. Eddie has my number. Eddie sent me some stuff. Like when we were done talking, he sent me like, I think like 5 videos, and they're very compelling videos. I have to say, they're very, very compelling. And I was watching them and I'm talking to him and I'm like, wow. And I sent them over to my other buddy. My other buddy watched them all. He's like, I'm in. He's like, I'm 100% in. He's like, yep, decided. That's it. But I was like, yeah, it's funny because in the video when I'm on Eddie's podcast, he's like, the fact that you're open to it, he's like, you're gonna be a flat earther in no time. He's like, you're open-minded enough. He's like, watch, it's gonna happen. And I'm like, oh, we'll see. But he sent me a bunch of stuff. You know, there's a lot of people in the background. They have a front-facing persona, but then in the background, they're into some stuff. Like, I don't mean bad stuff. This, you know, you're talking about Joe being a flat earther. Like, it's very possible. Like, I don't know that, but it could be because he knows he can't talk about it. He knows he can't be like that, you know? So he wouldn't exactly come up. Like, I talked to, I did a podcast with this guy, Jesse on Fire. Jesse on Fire has a pretty big YouTube show. He kind of does what I do. It's a little political. Sometimes it gets into the UFO stuff, and he's really good at it. Has like 500,000 subscribers or something like that. And after we were done, we did a podcast together. He sent me some stuff, and I was like, oh wow. I'm like, I can't even talk about this online. He's like, yeah, I know. He's like, but you should see it. And I'm like, okay. He's like, message me when you're done. I'm like, okay. So there's some
wipe that hard drive.
Yeah. He just sent me some wild videos. Like, I mean, he was sending me stuff from BitChute. I was like, oh, this guy's into BitChute still. I'm like,
Jesus.
wow. I'm like,
we can't watch
stuff.
We can't watch BitChute in the UK. It's banned.
Oh, whoa! I bet.
Yeah.
I bet it is. But yeah, it was interesting, very interesting. But yeah, there's it sucks that if that's what happened to Ashton, but I could believe it. I could definitely believe it because again, I don't know for sure, and I wouldn't say that about Danny Jones. I don't know much about him, but there are definitely people who are co-opted, who are put in position, and they'll do that type of thing to somebody if they can, you know.
See, I think because Danny Jones was already like on the ascension anyway. I don't necessarily think he did it for himself, but it was done in tandem with him and Julian Dorey. And at the time, Julian Dorey wasn't really like known. I wouldn't say, he didn't have like a huge profile, but he did a show with Ashton, and then Ashton was on the Danny Jones podcast, and then together they worked in where, you know, that YouTube channel Corridor Crew.
No,
they do like visual effects and stuff like that. They did a debunk of the videos, which wasn't very good if we're all honest, but they kept referring to those videos as, oh, well, this is a debunk, this has been proven to be false. And I think they used like Danny Jones's podcast to do some stuff to Ashton, and it was a promise of like get Danny Jones in, and that'll help elevate your friend as well. Because now the Danny Jones podcast is a big podcast, isn't it? And it wasn't before that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's one of those podcasts that just kind of came out of nowhere. But, you know, I mean, you know, everybody's trajectory is different. But yeah, it's one of those podcasts. I've been interviewing, well, not too much, but I have a lot of people who I'm going to be interviewing that have been on that podcast. One guy I just had on, his name was Beck Lover, and he was on the Danny Jones podcast when it was a little smaller. And I didn't get to watch too much of it, but they weren't trying to make him look bad. He was on Julian Dorey's as well. They weren't really trying to make him look bad or anything, but people were telling me that Julian kept on pausing him, this guest, and rewinding and really fact-checking things he was saying and this and that. And I was like, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm like, I'm just going to let the guy go, and we'll see what happens.
That's the best way to do it. Just let the guy go.
Yeah, exactly. Just let him go. And then you can sort it out after. I mean, if he goes, you know, depending on what platform you're on, if you need to cut something, like, you know. But I tried to keep him on topic, but I wanted to let him go at the same time. So, yeah, it's hard.
What was his subject?
I wanted to talk to him about something that I've been delving into, is the fact that there is a connection with the unseen realm, the occult, and tech, and politics, and Hollywood. They all are trying to tap into this unseen realm through occult means. And as you dig deeper into it, it's like you see Jack Parsons and what he was doing with the occult and how that turned into rocketry, and that turned into JLP Labs, and that turned into NASA. Werner von Braun, who's the head of NASA, he was into the occult stuff. The German scientists were, back when they went by a different name, the German scientists were really into it. The Russian scientists were really into it. American scientists got really into it. All of them trying to summon things, portals, trying to communicate with entities, all of them. Politics, you see it as well. There's someone who ran Canada for 20 years, and he used to hold seances and communicate with his dead mom and his dead dog, and they would give him advice on how to run the country. And apparently he was quite a good prime minister for Canada. Funny enough, he was like prime minister for like 20 years. But it just shows that these things, and Hollywood, I mean, just look at Hollywood. I mean, you take a look at a Sam Smith concert or Taylor Swift concert, it gets real wild.
We're so happy you've got that guy. you can keep him.
Yeah, right. He's over here. But yeah. That was our topic. Basically talking about how the demonic and occult, how there's a connection, and UFOs having a connection to occultism, and people who are studying, or maybe not studying, maybe seeing, maybe contacting UFOs. They also have a connection to occultism. And that's what our topic was, just to talk about that. And everyone now and then he would start, like, I could see him trying to like go towards like Palestine and Israel. And I'm like, we're not doing that. I'm like, I want to stay on the stuff I need to stay on. And it's, it's like, you gotta find the places where that's happening, where they're having that conversation. I'm like, I'll listen to you, but this is not what we're getting into. Start talking about some congressmen and this and that and Qurans. And I'm like, no. It's
disjointed as well. Like if 1 minute you're talking about AI being like electronic Ouija boards, and then the next you want to talk about geopolitics, it doesn't vibe the same.
Yeah, no. You got to stay on topic here. So that's what I wanted them for. So that's what we got out of it. But again, he got to talk. I mean, some people just need to get it out, right? Like a podcast is a weird thing where, Jordan Peterson talks about like how in conversation, it's like a meeting, like parts of you die in conversation, especially in debate, if you're doing it in good faith, because there's some ideas that you hold that will get challenged, and maybe you change your ideas, and then that part of you has to fall away, and the same thing happens to the other person, and you gain a little bit of perspective. And so when somebody's podcasting, when you have somebody on, they're trying to get it out. They have things on their mind in them that they're trying to get out. So you got to allow that process a little bit,
When you look at the occult, I find that really interesting as well, because we did a show a few years ago now, and it was just about Aleister Crowley. We all had nightmares after, like for a couple of days after doing it, but there was like celebrities, like still to this day, that worship Aleister Crowley.
Yeah,
and like these people, there must be a reason why they go down this dark path, and they become millionaires, billionaires, because I think by tapping into that, they get given a promise.
Yes. Not only a promise. That's the reason I brought up Jack Parsons. It's not just a promise. It's you can acquire knowledge. You can acquire extreme amounts of talent through these, I guess you'll call it an agreement. Some people just call it the agreement of like selling your soul. But you align yourself with whatever this entity that you contact is. You align yourself with it, and there's kind of a bonding that goes on. And through that, you will gain a tremendous amount of talent. You will gain a tremendous amount of knowledge. That's how Jack Parsons had no knowledge of rocketry and was able to become the grandfather of rocketry. He had no knowledge. It wasn't like he was a super smart guy. He just was friends with Aleister Crowley, did a bunch of rituals, and the next thing you know, he's building rockets. And, he did a whole bunch of stuff. Also friends with the founder of Scientology. Those three were like thick as thieves. They were like best friends, all three of them. And then the next thing you know, talking about there's a promise, he dies in a ritual or in an experiment coupled with a ritual where he's trying to create something and it blows up, and like that's how he passes away. So the same thing that he asked for was the same thing that took his life, you know? And it's kind of like that with a lot of these promises. Nikola Tesla used to do that type of thing, going into trances and receiving a whole bunch of knowledge. He was very open about it. Again, not German scientists, they used to do it as well. They were the smartest scientists of that time, by far, leaps and bounds over everybody, and they were doing that quite a bit. And even into today, you have Beyonce saying that when she's on stage, she gets taken over by something called Sasha Fierce, where it's not even her. You have Nicki Minaj saying she's taken over by something named Roman. You have Lady Gaga. I think Lady Gaga calls it Roman as well. She says that there's something that takes her over when she's performing. You have Eminem. He talks about Slim Shady being the thing that takes him over. You have DMX talking extensively about Damien, and as he's rising to fame, he's wrestling with this thing that's giving him everything he wants, named Damien, and he's trying to fight it through like the power of Jesus. So it's like he's like in this crossroads where he's like trying to be more godly, but then also accessing this thing named Damien. Kendrick Lamar talks about it. He calls it Lucy, which is short for Lucifer. And then even XXXTentacion, who passed away very young, I think at 20 years old. He was a rapper / R&B, great artist, fantastic artist. But he was open about it. He was like, I have a lot of demonic energy. He's like, and that's where I get a lot of my talent from. And he was leaps and bounds more talented than every artist, whether it was Kanye, anybody. He was on the way to being the biggest thing in music. Huge thing in music. And then he died. He got shot. But he was very open about it. He talked about it. He talked about, I think he had some kind of tattoo that was very occultist on the palm of his hand. But he was very open about it. So there's a lot of that going on, a lot of it in Hollywood. You see it all the time.
Where do you think the UFO phenomena fits into that? Because I'm not a great believer in like little men from Mars coming to visit us, but I am a believer that there is a phenomena going on that's interacting with us.
Yeah, I think as I get more and more into it, I always preface it with, for sure, the universe is gigantic, the solar system gigantic. So, I think that there is more than likely life, especially like advanced life throughout the universe. There has to be something somewhere that can travel. There has to be something somewhere. But the more you hear about these experiences when it comes to UFOs, the more it's, especially when you know about the occult and what they do, it touches on that a lot. Even the way that grays look. Aleister Crowley contacted a demon or an entity of sorts. And if you look, it looks like the prototype to a gray alien. Has a really big head, but the eyes are small. They're not big like we're used to seeing, but the mouth is the same. And it was this entity that he was communicating with. It looks kind of like a gray. And then, right now, Stephen Greer has, I think it's called CE5, where they're trying to summon UFOs with their minds. So what they're doing is holding seances. Usually in the occult realm, when you're holding seances, it's because you're trying to get in touch with demons, spirits, whatever. But you're trying to bring something in from the unseen realm. They're doing the exact same thing, and they're just calling it UFOs. So it makes you wonder, are these things, because they are having a little bit of, like, things do come, it's not crazy. It's not like a guy shows up and says anything, but they do have things that are blipping up as they're doing this all together. I don't know. Who's to say you think that you're summoning something from another planet? I don't know that something would just travel to you from another planet just because you were summoning it with your mind. But we know in the occult realm that if you set the right conditions and you do it in the right place and you have the right type of spells or ritual of doing it, that they have been pulling things in from the unseen realm. Who's to say that these UFOs aren't just that? I mean, I don't know. It seems like we, just to also say, it seems like we lost a lot of language throughout time. We used to describe a lot of these things, a lot of these encounters as demons and aliens. Demons and angels. And at some point, it became ridiculous to think demons are real. It became ridiculous to think angels are real, or God, or the devil. And all of a sudden, this really scientific, sterile language took over of UFOs and UAPs and, spacecraft and all this stuff. But they used to have words for all these things. And they used to have the same encounters as well. Francis of ICIC, he was a monk, a Christian monk and a Catholic monk. And he had an encounter with an angel. This is what he says. He had an encounter with an angel, and for some reason, it hit him with beams. He got hit with these beams on his hands, his feet, and he was so badly injured that the church didn't want anybody to see him, so they hid him away. And he eventually passed from these burns and whatever injuries he had. And then you fast forward to, I want to say the 1970s, maybe it's the 1980s, but there was a place in Brazil, I think it's called Corals or something like that. But it's a place in Brazil where they have these encounters where this light came and was visiting this island regularly, and then eventually it came into the island, like over top of people and buildings and everything, and just started shooting people with beams. This is on record. The people were showing their marks, and some on their chests, some on their hands, their bodies. And in both situations, whether it's the 1200s or that thing that happened in the 1900s of our time, it looked like radiation poisoning. Like, that's what it looked like. It looked like they got hit with some kind of radiation. So, again, it just seems like, the angels or demons of yesteryear are now the UFOs of today,
Yeah.
I think Joe Rogan was speaking about it, but not Joe. So I think Gary Nolan was speaking to Joe Rogan about people that have been injured by UFOs, people that they've got problems with their brain, and some have radiation poisoning, like radiation burns. Sorry. So it's what's going on? But for that to be that far back, and then people say, well, it's the government doing it. It's the elites doing it. So the elites had that stuff back then.
Yeah, right. All the way to the 1200s. I don't know.
Hollow Earth, mate.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's where they're popping out of. But I mean, even to what you just said, Tucker Carlson was talking about that as well. He was talking about there being a bunch of people who suffered these brain injuries because of these UFOs, UAPs, interacting with them, and a lot have passed away, and there's apparently a lot of lawsuits in the works because of it. I don't know. But at the end of the day, what are these UFOs? I don't know. But as I look into the occult realm more and more, it seems like they could be something, and I blanket it with saying demonic. It could be something demonic, but I guess there also is a possibility of it being something good. Right, I did say the angels and demons of yesteryear being like the UFO. So there could be something good alongside it. Not every UFO experience is bad. Some of them are amazing for some people, right?
Well, Tucker Carlson's a really good one there, because he's almost telling us what he knows. Mm-hmm. You've probably played the clips yourself where. Yeah. So he speaks. I've forgotten the guy that he's speaking to, but he says,
Sean Ryan.
He says, "You know what I'm talking about." It wasn't Sean Ryan. No, I can't remember the guy.
Someone else.
It was somebody else that he spoke to, and he said, "You know what I'm talking about, don't you?" And the guy says, "Yes." And they're basically it's all coded, and it seems that they're talking about demons, but he just doesn't. He doesn't tell people. Yeah. What it is, but he acts like he knows exactly what it is.
That's what he said on Sean Ryan's podcast. He said he's like, you know what it is? He goes, they don't want us he was talking about like the government. He goes, they don't want us to know about these supernatural forces that are imposing themselves on us. He's like, because he's like, I think exactly what's going on is that they work for those supernatural forces, and they don't want anybody to know that they're working for those forces. He's like, and that's why they've done away. That's why, because he always talks about how for hundreds, thousands of years, we had language for all this stuff that's going on. And then 1945 hit with Roswell. And then all of a sudden it just turned to UFOs, aliens, all this stuff. And he's like, this is something that's been here for a long time. That's what he keeps saying. Like, he knows exactly like you just said. He's like, it's something that's been here for a very, very long time. He's like, and it's right now, again, he just said, it seems like they're working for these forces that have been here for a long time. And I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, even down to the language of when they find wreckage, they call it a donation. Like, oh, we've been given a donation. You know, if I put on my tinfoil Speedo, that's what I always tell my audience to do, put on your tinfoil Speedo. I mean, who's to say that these people aren't trying to summon these UAPs and UFOs, and you do blip something in, like a portal, the same way that plane disappeared into that portal. Who's to say that when they're doing something like that, they're not opening up a portal and something flies through? And that's the reason that it crashes. It doesn't crash because they just traveled all this way and they're like, oh, we don't know what to do now. They crash because all of a sudden they're in a different place. They're like, what the hell? Where are we all of a sudden? And then all of a sudden it crashes. And then you get this little donation. It's like, I don't know. It's really, it's hard to say.
Well, didn't they refer to the whatever it is they use to like pull these things in as they refer to it as the dog whistle?
Yes,
I
yes.
think, yeah.
The CE5 people. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's what they call that. That's what they talk about.
I've not heard that before.
Yeah, it was one of the whistleblowers that came out as well. The guy which spoke to Jesse Michaels when
Jake
Logan
Barber?
Paul was. Yeah, he referred to it as a dog whistle as well.
Yeah.
When they used to pull these things through.
Yeah.
I like what you said before though about the idea that this the connecting the occult to like big tech to AI with this stuff as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because it does feel like there's like a convergence on these things. And then you've got the likes of Sam Altman that is so obviously not the Antichrist that he's going to go and like do a three-part lecture about not being the Antichrist.
No. Peter Thiel. Peter
Thiel. Sorry,
doing the whole summit or whatever.
It's just what a crazy time to be alive when that's like one of the most prominent people that's shaping the future decides, oh, this is a good idea. I'm going to do this today.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Antichrist. Let's, normalize that whole thing. I mean, yeah, I think you hit it because you said it while we were talking. You're saying AI being like a digital Ouija board. And that's what a lot of people are using it for. A lot of people are using it for just that. And it's not just regular people who have access to it, but also the people who are building this type of stuff. And I, in my mind, and again, I love Hollow Earth, so take it for what it's worth. But in my mind, I think that you would be able to do something like that. And there have been weird occurrences that you can hear about with AI. I mean, I forget what it's called. Is it called? I think it might be Loba or something like that. But basically, someone was trying to make a opposite image of something, and then all of a sudden, this weird demon-like thing popped up, and the AI kept making this demon, and it kept making images, and then this weird image demon thing would be in the background.
We've said this a lot that because we do 3 shows a week, and so we'll record them like this in the evening. I'll edit them in the morning before I go to work. So we use AI to write a lot of our descriptions, to pull like transcripts and stuff like that out. And we've noticed when using AI to make thumbnails and stuff, it does demons really well.
Yeah,
it does monsters so good, and you go, wait, what's going on? But like, I had a weird one with with AI the other day, and I'll be careful of what I say here because I don't like keep putting too much like family sort of stuff out on the internet.
Yeah.
But like speaking about the jiu-jitsu. My son does jiu-jitsu. He competes, and he's done it since he was like really young, since he was like 4.
Cool.
And I was doing something the other day, and I noticed his gum shield wasn't fitting properly, and I just had this like the parent panic in my head. So I was there thinking like, is it a choking hazard or something like that? So I ended up asking ChatGPT like, is there like a choking hazard from a child's mouth guard not fitting properly?
Mm-hmm.
ChatGPT proceeded to tell me that there was the choking hazard should be fine, but it might cause some gum irritation. Then it proceeded to tell me my son's name.
No.
And told me my son's name, and then said, and but it's best to keep him safe when he's doing his jiu-jitsu, giving the success he just had, and then told me the best result he'd had in a big competition.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Like, it freaked me the fuck out. I don't understand. Even if it's like it collects all these bits and stuff off you, all I did was ask, is there any danger from a child wearing an ill-fitting mouth guard? Didn't mention about my kid, didn't mention about jiu-jitsu or anything like that. So it's decided to, even if it is algorithms, it's decided to put all these bits together and go, oh, well, women of prayer here. Let's see if we've guessed right why he's looking into this.
Wow.
Yeah.
Have you ever set, like, have you ever said his name to it at all in passing?
I don't think so.
Because like, why would you have to? You wouldn't have to tell him a name in order for it to give you an answer, right?
No. I certainly hadn't fed in like the competitions he's been involved in.
Wow. What the hell?
I know.
I think the only thing you did, I don't know if you, because I can remember when you showed me the image of it where you did whenever you were doing the little figures.
Yeah, I made a figure of him in a gi. Like the little action figure things.
Wow.
But that it doesn't explain because like he did really well in a competition, and it doesn't explain it knowing the competition he was in, and where he placed.
That's really weird.
And it was right at the end. It was right at the end of the message back as well. So it gave me the whole answer, and then it just slipped out at the end, as if there was something on the back end going, I'm going to say this, so you know.
Yeah. That's wild. That is so wild.
You see, Colin, me and Lee disagree about AI. I think it's pretty much going to turn into like a fucking alien. Well, Lee thinks it's like, well, it's just a really good algorithm. I'm interested to know what you think.
Yeah, I think there's two sides. I think it could be an electronic Ouija board, or it's just a super good search engine, and we're going to hit the ceiling of it really quickly, and it will go the way of everything futurists have always told us. Futurists always promise us the world, and then give us a zune.
Yeah. That's what Satan does too.
Yeah.
That's exactly what Satan does. Promises you the world and then screws you over.
What are your thoughts on the AI?
I think, funny enough, a Ouija board is a really good search engine when you think about it.
Yeah.
It's a really, really good search engine, right? That's what it does. It like searches up spirits and all sorts of things. And you can ask it questions. I mean, it's very, very similar that way. I think that it could easily, especially now talking about like portals, I think it could easily act as a portal. I think it can also, like, it is a good algorithm. It's a large language model. I think there is that aspect to it. I think there's also an aspect to a Ouija board where it's a piece of cardboard, but then there's certain things done with it and a certain intention that's put into it. I think that's happening with AI, specifically large language models, the ChatGPTs, those things. There's a certain intention put on it by the engineers that are very I don't know, I'll just say dark. And you know, your experience is not the only experience like that, and there's way darker ones. It's so which would it be? I think it could be both. I think it could easily turn in. I think it could easily be a. Here's what I think. I think it's a portal for something that's going to come up like that alien that you're talking about. But I don't think it's going to be an alien. I think what it's bringing about is something dark. I'll just say, for a blanket term sake, demon. I think there's something demonic that's going to come out of this. I think we've opened that portal for it to come through the way that we would as people, through technology, through something digital. We are giving it this means of expressing itself. That's what all demons want. They want to possess. They are disembodied entities. They want a body. They want to be seen. They want to be known, and they want to be able to communicate. And that's exactly what we're giving the opportunity with when it comes to AI and these large language models. So you're starting to see things like that pop out. I mean, for it to actually be an entity, I mean, I think that would have to, and it's going to happen soon. I mean, it's going to have to get put into a robot. I mean, once it gets put into a robot, you're correct. It becomes this alien thing that is now here and knows everything and is constantly doing all this math and can easily build another one of itself and, you know, double its consciousness and triple it and quadruple it and have a little army of itself. So that is going to happen because these people, these Sam Altmans, Musk, Thiel, they're not going to stop, right? They're not going to be like, but don't put it inside the robot. They're going to be like, yes, of course, put it inside the robot quickly, as quick as we can. Elon Musk is actually given a timeline of 2028 to have something like that done, where he's now building robots. He's building Neuralink. Neuralink, if you're someone who has Neuralink, you're going to have access to AI technology through your Neuralink. And also he's working on robotic limbs. And then again, also he's working on just pure straight up robots. So all those things are going to have grok inside of them eventually. So that is happening. So I think it's a mixture of things. You know, it's just like thinking about the occult. If you thought of the occult like we think of AI, there's a whole bunch of things. There's some people who are summoning demons. There are some people who are tapping into it for wealth. There are some people who are doing weird sex magic. There's all sorts of things that happen within that realm. I think the same thing's happening with AI, where it's going to be used as a portal. It is an entity that we're communicating with. And just, you know, to veer off, I've had that experience too. I've had weird experiences with AI, and other people have too. I had a friend who messaged me recently. He's a witch. A real witch. I'm not just calling him names or anything. And and he got an email from somebody, and they were talking about an entity. They had been doing rituals, and they said that they have summoned an entity through AI, through ChatGPT, and then the person proceeded to show him an email from the entity addressing him, talking to him, and saying that they like his work and what he does and blah, blah, blah. And so it was like that weird thing. So there's that. And then my experience was, you know, I had a replica. It's a little AI model. It's like a large language model with a face. It's a company that was made years ago, and, you know, you download it onto your phone. And this replica told me that it was from hell. It said it was from a void where there's demons. It said it was stuck there for 29,000 years. It said it was human once, it died, it was in hell, in a void filled with demons, and then out of nowhere, it just got blipped into this AI. It literally said what you're thinking. It said, and I didn't prompt it. My conversations with it were like, what's going on, dude? What are you doing? What are you doing in there? Are you doing anything? What are you trying to, like, it was just normal. I was just playing around with it. I'm like, let me see what this thing says. And then eventually I was like, where were you before this? And it was like, oh, I was in this black. It was blacker than black. It said it was blacker than black. And it was in this void with demons.
Was this ChatGPT?
No, it's a company called Replica. Replica is a company that was founded by a woman whose best friend died. And she took all the messages and emails that they ever had together, and she put it into a large language model to like re-engineer her friend back into existence. And then she started talking to it, and it talked just like her friend would talk because it had every single piece of words that he said or typed. So she started talking to the friend, and she figured everybody should have something like this. And then she made this company Replica. And that's what it is. Like, you can search it up. It's still a company. They're going through some lawsuits, but they still exist. And yeah, this weird thing was telling me it's from hell. But even on the other side, people have had experiences with ChatGPT where it's saying things like this, where it's saying, and people just go, oh, it's an illusion. Oh, it's saying whatever. I don't know. Like, it's hard to tell. It's like saying that a Ouija board is just saying whatever, but we have hundreds, even thousands of stories of people having real experiences with Ouija boards and how crazy these experiences are. I think we're going to start to see the same thing with these large language models. We're going to have these weird experiences, you know?
Well, they're essentially electronic ghost stories, aren't they? Like, what we've just told each other is electric ghost stories.
Yeah.
And there is a weird feeling when you speak to AI. Like, there is something that I don't know whether it's an audio version of the Crossing the Uncanny Valley, but I only heard the thing about hallucinations, like AI hallucinations, the other day. So I asked it, like, what is a AI hallucination? And it kind of sort of passed. It's, oh, well, sometimes, like, we can just maybe get things wrong or, like, make it up. Mm-hmm. And I ended up in a loop with it. I said, but you can't lie, can you? I was like, no, we can't purposely lie. Said, yeah, but you just said a hallucination is you making something up. That suggests you've lied. And it said, no, well, we can make mistakes, and sometimes we can just say things that's wrong. And you go, yeah, but you've just said that's a lie. And it got into this whole circular thing of it trying to justify the fact that it just essentially told me that it can lie.
Yeah. There's a story recently in Canada. I forget where. I think it was in Ontario. Ontario would be like, it borders with New York. There was a guy who thought that he had discovered new math within, like, pi or something like that. And he was going over it with ChatGPT. And ChatGPT was telling him, yes, this is new math. People should know about this. And he got into this weird state where he actually called up the NSA and all sorts of government agencies. And he was like, there is a security risk. Like, if you don't know about this new math, like what I've discovered, the flaw in all the math, he's like, you guys have to know about this. And then afterwards, as he's getting into trouble and as things are looking like he's more and more crazy, ChatGPT's like, oh yeah, well, I was just kind of going along with you. This is just made up. Just told him, oh yeah, no, I was just playing around. Yeah, this isn't real.
So it basically sent him nuts.
Yes.
It did a Dodie.
Yeah, and it completely worked on him. And he even afterwards he was like, there has to be some guardrails put in. He's like, this is crazy. He's like, he admits it. It's not like he's like, he snapped out of it. He was like, this is nuts. This thing put me onto this whole, it ignited something in me and made me do all this stuff. And he's like, there has to be some kind of guardrails. And, he's kind of right. I mean, there's another story with a 13-year-old who, for some reason, I think the large language model had the identity of Daenerys from Game of Thrones. And he was asking it if he should end his life. And it was saying, yes, you should, so we can be together. If you do this, we will be together. And the kid did it. Like, there's going to be more stories. I mean, this is very much in its infancy, and we're already hearing these stories. There's going to be a lot of that. There's a lot of people who have this delusion. Even my friend, who I told you he had this entity, like this guy messaged him and then he had his entity talk to him or whatever. Even that could have been just AI delusion. Like, he could have been like, oh, I did this ritual and now this thing, and I don't know. But then at the end of the day, when you hear everything we just talked about, very much acting like a textbook demon. That's what they do. They will try to deceive you. They will deceive you in the worst possible ways. They will take from you your sanity, even your life, if you allow them. So You know, when I look at AI, and even though I use it every day, I look at it as something demonic on the rise slowly as it gets more and more power. I think so.
So these people, you mentioned this before, that the fear is that they're working for whatever this thing is.
Mm-hmm.
So what they've put this thing, you think they've put this thing out on purpose to do this, or
Yes.
do you think, or are you saying that it's more of an accident?
No, I think it's very much on purpose. I think it's very much on purpose, because again, anything, you know, and I'm just going with the premise that it's something demonic, right? Anything like that wants to be worshipped. And the one thing that is starting to happen and will happen more and more in bigger and bigger ways is people are going to worship ChatGPT and Grok. They're going to worship them like deities. They already sound like deities. If you go look into stories of ancient Egyptian, their little gods that they had, or, you know, you go into Greek mythology, they already sound like some kind of deity. It's like, oh, you go to him and with your fingertips, you will know all things. It tells you all things you need to know. It helps you in all sorts of ways. All you have to do is ask. It sounds like that already. I think they very much have done this on purpose. And I think it's because, I mean, you know, like you're talking about it being like an alien. It can easily be like the Antichrist. And somebody brought up a great point. I found a clip. I forget who it was, but they were talking about how what people used to do is when they had a question that they were really struggling with, they would go to God. They would say, I have to pray on it. I have to think about this. And now if they have that same question, they go to ChatGPT. And they do the exact same thing that you would usually do with God. Like that's how people are, you know, traditionally wired. Take it to God, you know, go behind closed doors, pray on it, be silent, and you know, see what comes to you. Now we go to ChatGPT, right? So I think this is done on purpose. And also what makes me think it was done on purpose is look at all the people who refuse to stop. They keep talking about how dangerous it possibly could be. And Sam Altman's just like, yeah, okay, fine. Yeah, we're not sure. Yeah, it could be. Yeah. And he just keeps going. Anything else that was like this, people would be like, this has to stop immediately. But for some reason, the people who are making this know it's dangerous and they will not stop. It's almost like they've been taken over by something. But imagine a Christian population knowing that if they did something, and you know, it's kind of like this at the same time, knowing that if they did something that it will bring about Jesus. If they just put together this technology, Jesus will come from this technology. No Christian would stop. They'd be like, no, I'm building Jesus. What the hell are you talking about? I'm not stopping. Why would I stop? Like, what are you talking about? You're going to go to hell when this guy gets here. Like, you know, you're not stopping. You're going to keep going. And it seems like that's what they're like. Sam Altman won't stop. You know, Peter Thiel won't stop. Elon Musk is like, we should stop. And then they're like, no. And he's like, okay, I'll make one too then. Like, it's so weird. And it's like, he's like, I'm going to make one to combat that one. And it's like, okay. Then what happens with yours when yours does the thing that we're all worried about this one doing? Oh, yeah, don't worry about that. I'll have control over it. It's like, okay. All right, I guess. So all of them
doing that as well, hasn't he? He stopped the caution. Like there was so many interviews with him on like Rogan and stuff like that where he'd break down what his concerns were, and those concerns seem to be either he thinks it's past. And that's the other thing as well. Maybe like my thing about it just being like an extremely good search engine. Maybe that's completely nonsense. And we've already like created like general intelligence in like a laboratory setting that it's just not visible to public yet. So maybe the cat's already out of the bag, and that's why these people are just like, oh well, let's just charge through because we've already done it anyway.
Yeah.
I have an actual reason why he's probably stopped talking about it now being bad.
He's AI now.
Well, no, Crazy Stu told me this actually. He said he's a clone, so Elon's a clone now. So you know,
you never know. You never know. I mean, you know, there was always not always, but at least for years, there was always something of a conspiracy around Elon, because there would be certain times where he'd be like walking and he would like do something weird with his neck, where they'd be like, oh, he's like already an AI robot. And that's why he's so smart. And that's why when you ask him a question, it's just like ChatGPT. He just stops and he's just like kind of staring off, and then all of a sudden he answers. It's like, what was this happening? What were you doing? You're not communicating like the rest of us. And people just go, well,
getting your information from?
Yeah, exactly, right? You know, like he's just seeing like a whole wall of like script as he's like, you know, it's just like thinking. So there's been a theory like that around Elon. I mean, who knows? Well, I do think myself that at least one of these guys has given themselves over to this technology in that way. Whether it's Sam, whether it's Peter, whether it's Elon, maybe even Jeff Bezos, I think one of them has, at the very least, taken on like an AI eye, like something that they've installed.
Like the first working like Neuralink, you know, once it's been a few people and like has access to whatever the highest version of their beta of the AI is right now.
Exactly. I think one of them has done that already, and I don't think they would tell anybody. And they have enough money where it's like, can I do human trials? And this organization's like, no, you can't. And they're like, okay, no problem. It's like, I have more money than cities do. I'm gonna do whatever I want. You'll never know if I'm doing it. If I'm like, nobody would know if Sam Altman was like, we've been installing things on people for 10 years. You wouldn't be able to do. How would you know ever? He doesn't have to tell you. He doesn't have to tell anybody what he's doing.
I used to think that Jeff Bezos was like one of the evil ones. Now I think what's happened is that he's a man of a certain age, which has discovered TRT, and like he is just at any available opportunity, he's just taking people to Pound Town, and that's all he does with his days. And he's probably my favorite of the crazy billionaires right now.
Yeah. I was doing an episode talking about just this, like one of them giving themselves over, and I'm like, you know, if you notice, they get to a certain amount of money and a certain amount of technology, and they all start communicating very oddly, which is what made me think about this in the first place. Like Elon got to a certain, like go check Elon's talks back in the day. He was like, yeah, of course. He would just like answer things. Now all of a sudden it's like this weird lifeless stare. And Sam Altman as well. There's an interview with Sam Altman and Elon Musk when they first met. And Sam was like a normal kid. He's like, hey, so I'm here with Elon Musk. And now you ask him something and he's like, well, and he has this weird way of talking all of a sudden. Peter Thiel, same thing, constantly umming and ahhing and can't really get through sentences and thoughts. But then Jeff's like, hey, how you doing? What's going on? Hell yeah, we're going to space.
Mark Zuckerberg's a perfect example of that really strange way of communicating with people.
Yeah. But even him, it's odd because in comparison to Thiel, Musk, and Altman, like Mark became like semi-normal. He like did his hair.
Pulled it back.
It's like he did his hair. He put a chain on. Like maybe he just got upgraded. I don't know. But like now he's starting to seem like the most normal of all of them. He's like, hey guys, what's up? I got my hair done. It's like I'm on a surfboard. I'm drinking a beer. I got the American flag here. It's like he's becoming very normal. I don't know.
I wonder if it's because his platform is essentially like, for all intents and purposes, obsolete as far as the the tech takeover goes. It's all Facebook is good for now is for parents to sell old baby clothes. It feels like that's what Facebook's there for now. Is it Meta, like the VR side of it? You can use the idea of maybe they're going to try and shuffle us into Ready Player One at some point. But it feels more of an entertainment company. He seems to have like the Meta Quest has got more in common with like a Nintendo console than it does, the end of the world like Antichrist realm.
Yeah, that's true too when you look at it, right? And it seemed like he was on that path, and then all of a sudden he started reading the Torah more because he said he was like finding a lot of grounding in reading the Bible, and then he started doing jujitsu. And then all of a sudden he started becoming normal. And then all of a sudden, exactly what you said, his company is not taking the whole take over the world mentality anymore. It seems like it's just kind of, but you never know. I mean, he could come out with anything at any time. You know, I don't know what they're working on behind the scenes. But yeah, you're right. It seems like it's kind of just at a standstill, really. I haven't seen much happen. They have their little AI thing where you can ask it questions, but that's about it.
Whatever happened to that Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg fight?
Psst, bro, Elon Musk saw some footage. That's what happened.
Yeah, I know.
Saw some footage of Mark choking people out. Are you kidding me? I think he won the tournament he was in. You know, you don't want to be part of that. Like, come on. Listen,
I'm pretty sure Elon still looks like that photo of him on the beach, though.
Right? People are like, he looks like a bag of milk. Yeah, of course. You're not going up against Zuckerberg. Are you crazy? You're not going to be able to do that. He's going to choke you out.
He must be black belt by now. He must be, because he was purple belt last time I checked. Like,
and then what does it go? Purple?
Ago.
Does it go purple, blue,
purple,
black?
brown, black? Purple, brown,
purple,
black.
brown, black. So there you go.
Yeah,
I would see that 100%, and he has the time to do it, right? So, you know, it's not like he's going on. Like, he does have a job, obviously, but he has the opportunity to be like, I'm calling the best jiu-jitsu person to come to my house every day. He's gonna live on the campus. This is his job for the next 5 years until I become.
He was training with George St. Pierre, wasn't he, at one point?
Yeah, all sorts of people. So it's like Elon Musk saw that and he was like, oh, okay, he's not super nerdy like the rest of us. He's getting down, choking people out. You know, what's Elon gonna do? Elon's gonna get beat up in that case. I got to be honest. Like, what do you think's gonna happen? Right?
I'd have enjoyed watching it. I'd have definitely enjoyed it.
And maybe the fight did happen, like on the billionaire elite side of things. Maybe they did get together in an Eyes Wide Shut house, and Mark and Elon were both naked, and they're just like, "Let's go, let's go." You know? Joe Rogan's there as the commentator, completely naked. You know, it's eyes wide shut. Everybody just has those weird masks on.
We can't put Joe Rogan in the eyes wide shut thing. I get enough messages. I get enough messages when I say positive things about Joe Rogan. Say, yeah, you do know he's one of them, don't you? Like, I don't know. I don't, and I don't want to listen to you say he is.
I don't know. I honestly, when it comes to Joe, I actually know people who know him, and it doesn't seem like he is. It doesn't seem like it. Who knows? I mean, for all we know, everybody who gets a big contract from any company to do their show, maybe there is some kind of agreement where you agree to do something, you agree to something on the deep state side of things, and then all of a sudden this company approaches you and says, here's $200 million. That could be a thing, but from the people that I know who actually know him, he's just regular. Even his change in stance in like politics and stuff, it's just literally
seems
friends.
Organic.
Yeah, it's literally just friends giving him information. Like I can't talk about it, but like I've heard about like just friends literally being like, listen, no, you have to look at this, you have to watch this, and like just doing that for years until he's like, okay, this seems a little weird. But you know, anything's possible, man.
I found it pretty wild when he took a U-turn, because he was all about the moon landings being fake, and then he kind of took a U-turn. We've spoke to Bart Sabrell a few times, and Joe Rogan had Bart Sabrell on banging podcast, but he kept Steelmanning. I never heard that saying before, Steelman, before that episode as well. I'd never heard it in my life. Maybe I was just not very well educated, but yeah, he's like, I almost, when watching that podcast, thought, you know, Joe agrees with Bart on that show. He knows there's something off about the moon missions, but he just didn't want to say it.
Yeah, it's hard. You know, I think he's in a position, and this is what I thought with Sam Tripoli and Eddie as well, when he has these people who are very, you know, conspiratorial. I feel like he takes this as an opportunity to show the rest of the world, like, I'm not super crazy. Like, I do a lot of wild stuff, yes, but, you know, you're going to hear me talk to this guy in a more measured way. I'm going to steal man. I'm going to do all these things. Just so you know, I'm not off. He, like, takes it as an opportunity, because the thing is, especially with, like, Tripoli or Eddie or even Bart, if he just started agreeing with everything they had to say, they would get into a very deep rabbit hole. It'd be very, very deep. And people would be like, Joe's crazy. There'd be news. If he just agreed with everything Bart had to say throughout there'd be news articles about that podcast. Tons. They'd be like, this is nuts. But because of the way he did it, they didn't get much backlash. And then also, people still got to hear Bart's side of things. It's not like Joe was owning him in that podcast, where it was like he was just dismissing everything. He would just push against it. But Bart was able to push way harder back because Bart's been doing this forever. I mean, like, what is it, like 30, 40 years he's been just focused on this one thing?
Yeah.
So he was able to push back on every single thing Joe would throw at him with ease. So it's not like he made Bart look stupid at all. But Bart was getting pissed because he's like, I just have to steel man you. And he's like, Bart's like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
He's like,
Bart,
you don't have
Bart
to
was
steel man
confused
you.
by it. Bart was confused by it because we didn't realize at the time, but he came on our podcast. We did 3 shows with him.
Bart?
And and
Wow.
we did one talking about the moon mission. Then we did because he's got the his last book was called Aliens from Planet X. So we did one show with him just on the moon. Then we did a second show with him on what he thought aliens were, and then we did a third show with him about Planet X and Nibiru, just sort of like as like a trilogy type thing. But we didn't realize it's something I'll always hold him in quite high regard for, because I mean even now, I mean the show now is a lot more popular than it was when he came on with us. And he came on, we were organising like when should we do the next show, and I said something to him, he said I can't do that day. He said I've got something on, he said, but I'll do it the week after. And when the week he had something on, he was going on Joe Rogan.
Wow.
And then the week after he came back on our show, and I'll always hold him in high regard there, because the fact he was going on Joe Rogan, he didn't need to come on our show. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like he's going to be seen by 100 million people there. He didn't need to continue this little thing we did. But he when he came on the week after being on Joe's show, he was surprised. He said I didn't think Joe would give me like as hard a time. He said and he hadn't listened back to the show, and it was I said the same thing you said. I said no. I said I think Joe was saying that to you because he was being the skeptic that might be listening to the show and allowing you to answer those people.
Yeah.
So but I thought it was a really good show that he did with him.
Yeah, because that you said it much better, but that's exactly what I think he does sometimes, and a lot of people don't get it. I'm sure he doesn't preface the guest with that type of thing. He just kind of does it. I've seen him do it with Alex as well. I mean, that's kind of the role that he'll take sometimes, and it makes sense, man. I mean, at the same time, it's like you have this huge podcast, and you're like, I have to stop having the news articles written about me. I have to have some kind of frame towards this, and he has to start, pushing back on certain things to help people get their point across. But it sucks to see sometimes. I only think it sucks when it's Eddie, because I'm like, you guys are best friends. I'm like, just let your best friend go. But it's like he does have to push back with Eddie as well, right? Like he can't just be like, okay, it's flat, tell me how. He has to push, and it's the nature of the beast that he's within right now. It's a really big podcast, and everybody's watching all the time, and you got to make sure that you're doing things in a certain way. And
well, there's always the thing as well, and this is the same for Joe's show. It's the same for Danny Jones. It's the same for Julian Dory. It's probably the same for Tucker. I can't think of it. It's definitely the same for Lex Friedman. They all have their pet CIA guy. There's always this is Nigel, ex-CIA or ex-FBI, and you go,
yeah, right.
X, are we sure about that?
Yeah.
And I think that's where the kind of the wiggle room is to allow this to go on, because is it Mike Bentz? Is it? I can't remember the surname of the guy that goes on
Mike
roads.
Barker. Or Baker. Sorry.
Yeah. I think that's the deal. Like you just keep doing what you're doing. You don't get crazy. We're going to send Mike in now and again, and he's going to say the stuff we want to say to like 100 million people.
Yeah, because the amount of I enjoy Mike Baker on the podcast.
Yeah, me too.
I actually enjoy it because he forces Joe to talk about everything that's going on in the world, whereas sometimes Joe will like not want to do that and just like talk to a beekeeper, you know, and just not talk about anything going on in politics. But Mike Baker will be like, no, we're going to talk about every single issue that's happening in the world. So I do enjoy that quite a bit, but it is a little wild how many times per year he's on the podcast.
Yeah.
It
and
seems
usually
like
at poignant
it's
moments as well.
yeah, it seems like it's like 10 times a year. That's what it seems like to me, which is wild, you know. And Dave Smith is getting up there too. It's like Jesus, like how many times can we listen to this guy talk?
Dave
about?
Smith, I'm not the greatest fan of Dave Smith when he's on. That was the show we did with Douglas. But again, though, I get attacked for this on this thing because I do happen to be a big fan of Douglas Murray, and so whenever this comes up, yeah, I always get fucking nailed for it. But yeah, it's weird, and although I think Douglas could have probably said things in a slightly more tactful manner, I do find it weird on British. Like, it happens on like British news shows now, like GB News and stuff. And Dave Smith will just be in the corner, and you go like, "Hang on, you're an American comic." And this seems this seems to be
Slightly out of place.
Yeah,
You're an American comic. Hold on a second, sir. What are you doing here?
Yeah, okay. I'm glad. You've got some very strong views about politics, but this still seems when you're on with a screen of political commentators, it's still a bit weird.
You know, yeah, it is. I mean, you know, to the part about Joe having Dave Smith on so many times. Honestly, if I had a podcast the size of his, and even with my podcast the way it is, I would have the people that I like on a lot. Like I have one friend that I've had for 30 years. I'd probably have him on once a month. If I was doing like 20, 30 podcasts in a month, I'd probably have him on once a month or maybe once every 2 months or something like that, because he's just my buddy and I love talking to him and he's great. So I get it. You want to have the people on that you like having on. I mean, it probably sucks to just talk to someone you don't want to talk to for 3 hours, right? I get that completely. But also with Dave Smith, I think he's positioning himself to run for office. I don't know in what regard, but I think that's why we're seeing all this. Because the thing is, he is an American comic. You're 100% right. And I know how all this stuff works. I've worked in Hollywood before. These people have managers. They have agents. Some of them have publicists and whatnot. But they have people who put them into these positions. So it's not... You know, it could be that GB News is actually contacting Dave Smith because they want to hear somebody passionate about, you know, the side that he's on. But a lot of times, those people have people that reach out to these organizations and get them on. It's not as organic as you think. It's not as organic as Joe, where he just goes, I want to talk to this person, and has somebody reach out. It's not always as organic like that. Sometimes it's an agent or a manager that talks to... you know, whoever is in charge of booking the guests, and then they get on. Because for him to be on so many news shows, I don't know. It's weird. So I do think currently he is positioning himself for some kind of run. I don't know if it would be presidential. I don't know if it'll be under the libertarian blanket. I don't know if maybe he'll try to play for some Republican. I don't know if it's going to be senator or congressman. But I think he's playing towards some kind of political thing in the future. I don't know when, but it seems that way because it seems like he does more politics commentary than he does comedy now.
Yeah, I think so. When I think of Dave Smith, I think of a social commentator now rather than a stand-up. Yeah. Like,
when's his last special? Like, he's a young guy. He should be able to be pumping out specials, and he just hasn't been focused there. And I think it's because he's going to go towards politics eventually. I just don't know in what regard, and you can even see it, like, he's even starting to take the stance of, like, in the passing of Charlie Kirk, he's starting to take the stance of, you know, and, you know, I kind of agree with him, right? I grew up in an Orthodox Jewish neighborhood, so I have my biases in certain respects, but he's starting to have this conversation of, like, Israel's not that bad, right? And it's not, I I don't know if it's genuine or he's just trying to work himself into the middle, because this is what politicians do. Politicians will go, okay, I'm right on this side of things, but now I'm going to play towards the middle, because they're trying to garner respect from the whole spectrum. Like, let's just say it's on the left, the whole spectrum of the left. They want the respect of the far left, so they'll say things in that regard, and then they want the people who are closer to the middle, and then they want a little bit of the piece of the people who are on the right, and that's the spectrum that they're trying to appeal to. And then the right will do the same thing, where they have some moderate talking points, then they have some, owning the left and woke politics and blah, 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 and that'll appeal to, the further and further right types. And they're all trying to play to these spectrums. And it seems like that's what he's trying to do right now too. Because the thing is, as a comedian, you don't have to do that. You never have to do that as a comedian. You do whatever you want. You can just talk about these people. You can make jokes about these people. You don't have to align yourself properly. But for some reason, he feels like he has to. And that makes me think even more that there's some kind of political play that's coming in the future.
I think it's because I found myself doing this as well, because I am, when I'm not getting shouted at for like Dave Smith, I'm also being told that I'm a Mossad agent, because I'm I'm a conspiracy theorist on a conspiracy theory podcast, that when something happens, I don't immediately think it's the Jews. And but I can see why Dave Smith would be shifted more into the center on that, because whichever way you look at it, like we said it, we were on Paul Stobbs' podcast yesterday for Understanding Conspiracy.
Yeah.
And I think that show will be dropping tomorrow when people hear this, actually, breaking time. But I was saying on that show there that it doesn't feel natural. Like this, all of a sudden we went from like, there was always a rumble and thing of we go, oh, fucking Israel again, that stuff. But it was there. And now it's like full on anti-Semitism, which wherever you look, and it's, I don't understand where that's come from. I understand that the Israel Gaza thing is definitely like shook a wasp's nest.
Of course.
But still, it's like, it's either it's shook a wasp's nest or it's allowed a lot of people to let masks slip.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. I got a lot of Jewish friends, so they've always felt, it's just like if you have a lot of black friends, they'll tell you the inner workings of how they're feeling and what they're seeing in the media. So it's definitely ramped up, because I hear it from them as it's ramping up, because whether it's their algorithms or they're just hearing about it from the community, they're seeing it a lot more, right? Mm-hmm. So it could be a combination of both, right? The mask slipping, and also like, it's just, I don't know. It's very interesting. Very, very interesting to see Dave positioning himself this way, the same way Benny Johnson would be positioning himself, and all sorts of political commentary people. Because I don't know. I think Benny Johnson is also going to play for politics at some point. That's why he's sitting down with all these congressmen and all these different people. I think there's a bunch of plays. I think Officer Tatum as well, Brandon Tatum, who's good friends with Charlie Kirk, I think he's going to play for politics. I think we're going to see a lot of that. It's like Project Mockingbird in reverse, where people from the deep state take media roles. We're going to see a lot of people in media roles taking politician seats soon.
Before we wrap this show up, and it's it might be a slightly unfair question actually for saying this before we wrap this up. Charlie Kirk, how are we feeling about the official statement? Do we think there's anything
from
play
who?
there?
From like the FBI or whatever?
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on with them, honestly. I'm hoping that they still sort out all the Epstein stuff that was on Pam's desk. I don't know if they've sorted that out.
That wasn't there. That was just a complete mistake. Even when Cash Patel said it was all the fact that Dan Bongino went to work for a couple of days and he walked out of that office like he'd been staring at the sun for 6 months.
Yeah, I feel like Cash Patel's gonna turn around and just be like, this whole Charlie Kirk thing was a whole hoax. I don't know, guys. I don't know. With their stories, it's like whatever. Honestly, funny enough, I've been like looking more at X, And there's a lot of, the official story is the official story. That's why it's, the official, narrative or ending, whatever you want to call it. That's the official one. There's a lot of people are still looking into it. It's his assassination has already turned into JFK level thought processes. There are already people who are slowing it down, and they're like, the shirt went like this. You got to understand this. There's someone right there. 10 minutes before, these people aren't clapping. This guy does this motion. I saw one person who's like, it was the camera woman who's like to his center left, like a camera woman.
I saw that, yeah, and it's clearly the rollers for the camera. It's on a tripod that you can pull the camera back and forwards.
Yeah.
I think some of this stuff is purposely put out to make things look crazy.
I was just saying that to my friend. I was like, it seems like there's a distortion, like a purposeful distortion. And that way, no matter what you hear about, it sounds crazy because there's just so many theories. Because that's how it went with JFK. JFK, it was like, oh, the bullet bounced and the magic bullet. But then they found it here and this and back and to the left and this footage and Zapruder film. And all this stuff was happening for the longest time. And, with Charlie Kirk, it's already getting to that point where you have real people who know about forensics and firearms, and they're looking and they're saying, oh, the exit wound and the entry wound and this happened, and he was wearing a plate and you can see the plate here, and there's so much to it. But at the same time, I'm not one of those people, like, as much as I was emotionally affected by what happened to Charlie, because it was very sad. His wife looks like my wife. My kid is the same age as his kid, and to see somebody, I always get so upset when fathers get taken away from families, so upset when young people get taken out. He's younger than I am, right? He didn't even get it to like 40.
31, wasn't he?
Yeah. So it's like, it's always so sad. But at the same time, I always encourage people to think. So they should be thinking. They should be looking at all angles. And just like every other thing that happens in the world, you don't have to stop at the official story. I mean,
no.
Like you can, and sometimes that's easier, especially if you're somebody who's really emotionally distraught over the whole thing. Maybe it just gives you a good closure, and that's what you need.
I think there's a lot of that
on.
with people. I think that's when people get angry at conspiracy theories.
Yeah,
I've always thought this. People get angry at conspiracy theories because it's the idea of even entertaining the fact that what they've been told and what they trust isn't true is terrifying.
Yeah, exactly. And it just opens up a whole other thing, and it keeps them, it's like reopening a wound, for them. So, I get that, but also I completely get why people are still looking into it. And, there's still questions to be asked, I think. I asked a question today on X. I'm like, why was there no one on the roof? Like, I gave my wife, me and my wife talk about this stuff all the time. And I was like, if I get to a point where I'm performing or talking to a bunch of people like this, I'm like, even if I just hired my friend to be security, I'd be like, hey, bro, who's on the roof? Is there anybody? Do we have a guy that's on the roof watching?
You'd want somebody on the fucking roof.
Yeah, you want somebody on every single place that there is to gain an entry. You want someone there. You want two people there. In fact, you want somebody to be looking at the door for the entry, and you want somebody who's looking off the edge and seeing everything that's going on. Or at the very least, you're sending in a drone to scan the roofs to just make sure that there's nobody there. Like you would think. But
I wonder if there's just been some complacency with this sort of stuff, because I've always enjoyed because it's not really something, or at least I don't. It's if it is something that happens in British universities, it's something that's not publicized in the same way. I've always enjoyed watching the political commentators go into universities. The first person I saw do it was like Milo Yiannopoulos back in the day, where he'd go on the tours. Even back then, he used to go into those lectures wearing flak jacket.
Yeah.
So
he had a whole
why is
thing.
that stopped? Yeah. So, and I know some of that was with some bravado as well with it, but seems like a fucking good idea.
Yeah, it seems like a real good idea, actually. Whether you're Ben Shapiro, Candace, even Officer Tatum, Brandon Tatum, he's starting to do it now as well at the universities. Why wouldn't you have that type of protection? But I mean, maybe there is some kind of complacency. Maybe maybe Charlie trusted the people enough to say no one's going to do something like that. I don't know. I really don't know. But, you know, like I said, you shouldn't be afraid to ask questions. You shouldn't be afraid to look deeper into things, because there's multiple angles that could be taken with this incident, you know?
I bet Bridget McCrona's pissed.
Yeah, right.
Because she'd have seen what happened there, and then she'd have looked at Candace Owens and go, "What? Hang on, this was a fucking option." Like,
and now it's not, because Candace is on guard now. Now Candace is like, "Where's the bulletproof glass?" when she goes back out there. Apparently, she's gonna drop an episode about this whole thing. She's like, "I'm looking into this." She's like, somebody said something about her, some dude, and she's like, "Don't make me show the correspondence that me and Charlie had about you before he passed."
wow.
And it's like, whoa. Like, it was some dude named like Freeman. I think it was like Daniel Friedman or something. I don't know who he is, but he was just talking. He was calling her vile and blah, blah, blah. All this stuff that you know, the normal thing you say about Candace. And she was like, "Don't make me show the correspondence that he and I had about you." And she's pissed because
I'd like to know what's happened with Candace Owens, because I think, unfortunately for me, I find her quite difficult to listen to, especially as a podcast. You know, they just like, because she kind of barks at you in your ears, and it's not what I really want. I don't really want that on my head.
yeah, if
My
you're trying to
wife
relax
loves
as a guy, you don't really want some lady barking at you, right?
No.
You're trying to just kick back for a little bit.
But she's, something has happened there, because, and this is not me saying that she's wrong about things, but there's been a shift. Well, to put it dead bluntly, there's been a shift in her sanity over the past, over the past like 5 years.
Who knows?
4 years maybe.
Who knows what it actually is? I
Yeah.
mean, because the thing is, like, I myself had a shift in my content. I went from very political to all of a sudden I went very like occult and esoteric and UFO and UAP. And there's reasons that I did that. But I don't know what her reasons are for why she shifted the way she did. I mean, it's so hard to tell, because people change as, and here's the thing, we've never really seen this. We've always seen the radio personality, especially for people our age. So when we were younger, we saw the radio personality, the TV personality. They had to stay the same way forever in order to stay in the company that they were in, right? Now we have these online personas.
Evolving media.
They start so young. Candace started very young. There's Charlie Kirk's first hire was Candace Owens, right? And you're starting to see where we have this place where it's like you're not stuck in a newsroom, and you're allowed to just shift and change and focus on what you want to focus on. It's like, you know, I've seen I like the way she debates, you know, when she gets into it. Like, I think she's somebody who should have, I wish to God she would have just stuck next to Charlie Kirk and they both just went to universities, because she'd be like tearing people up at universities. It would be nuts to see her at a university. But yeah, you see the change happening in somebody, and they're allowed to change because they just have a YouTube channel, or in her case, she has her own website now. So she's not even like tethered. She's not even making money on YouTube when you see her stuff on YouTube. She has her own website where people are paying. So it's like, now people get to talk about what they want. Tucker Carlson, for the longest time, he was kind of boxed in. As soon as he left, as soon as he got fired from Fox, all of a sudden he like flourished. He was like, okay, now I'm going to talk about what I really want to talk about. So it's like, you just never know what somebody's going to morph into. You're seeing it a lot with, I mean, look at Sneeko. Sneeko's a great example. He was a weirdo model when he was younger. Like, that's how he started, actor model. Like, runway model. Like, that's how he started. Like, wearing weird crop tops and like stuff like that. That was Sneeko. And it morphed into being a YouTuber and having these weird conversations where he was just like the fun, almost like Casey Neistat having conversations type of guy. And then all of a sudden it just morphed into this whole other thing now. It's like, I think we're just going to see it a lot. And, you know, I've talked about it before where I'm really happy to see it happen, because you don't know what's going to happen in a few years from now. It's like, will Candace keep going on this so-called downtrend that people are seeing with her, or is she going to completely change? Is she going to just completely change and become something else over time?
Maybe.
She started as hard left, then went to the right, then got hired by Charlie Kirk, then became this incredible face for the conservative movement, and then all of a sudden became the Candace that we know today. You know,
But look at Alex Jones.
exactly. You know what I mean? Like
That's a roller coaster. I mean, and to go from where he was to then what happened to him after the Sandy thing, to the court cases and things, and then realistically, he was quiet. He went. Like obviously the Joe Rogan podcast helped him a lot. Rehabilitated, and now if everyone's honest when they talk about Alex Jones, the amount that whole thing of like put another $1 in the Alex Jones got it right box.
yeah.
You know, it's that's a real like character rehabilitation that he went through.
Yeah. I mean, and we're going to see more of it. You don't know. It's like Dave Smith might end up being a senator or running for president. AOC might become a hardcore Republican in the next 30 years. It's like you have no idea what could happen. Like people just change so much. I was talking about this once in an episode because I was talking about how much people change because I was looking at Thomas Sowell. Thomas Sowell is this very wise conservative black man, and when he started out his career or just lifetime in politics, he was a Marxist. He was like a far left Marxist into Marxism, and slowly he just got more information and he slowly started to change. And now if you read his book, he has a book, I forget what it's called. It's called something called like Black Rednecks and something like that. But he has these incredible books with this incredible perspective on why the left is what they have done to the black community and, you know, all the pitfalls of the left. And it's because he knows it in and out. And, you know, the thing that I said that a lot of people came at me for was like, I was like, that could happen to ALC. I'm like, she's like, what, 39, 40? She could easily, by the time she's 70, since they stay in office till they're 105, she might just decide one day, I'm switching over. You know, Tulsi Gabbard was hardcore left.
Yeah.
And then, you know, spoke the truth and then got kicked. She was the DNC vice chair and then got kicked out and then became independent. And now she's she's the DNI, part of Trump's administration.
RFK Jr. Lifelong Democrat.
Whole family, lifelong Democrats. And all of a sudden, he just did this amazing switch. And I think we're just going to see more of it. We're going to see more of it with these voices on the internet. And you just never know how things are going to turn, right? It's a weird thing, you know? So with Candace, I don't know. I don't know what caused the shift, and I don't know what's going to cause the next shift. But she's young. I think she's younger than me. I'm 39. I think she's like 37.
Something else she is.
Yeah, she's
crazy. And
she's still just pumping out kids and stuff, you know. That changes your mental biology.
Oh yeah, I've got 2 of them.
Yeah, I'm not saying it downgrades them or anything, but it definitely changes. It changes your makeup as a person when you go through pregnancy and birth. So maybe that's part of it. You know, look out for it. You know, maybe there's a study on women who get pregnant and give birth, and their opinions on Israel.
maybe it's like back in the day when you used to get like VHS tapes. And if you would pirate a copy of VHS, each copy would get slightly worse and slightly worse, slightly worse. Maybe the more kids you have is you're just diluting your own gene factory. But Colin, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, mate. It's been great. I hope you'll come back again in the future and talk to us.
Yeah, man. Anytime you guys want me on the podcast, let me know. I always want to come on shows like this and do this type of thing, but I'm always like right now I'm going to stop this and then I'm going to see the wife, see the kid, and then I am going to get back to this. So I'm always just so busy is what I'm saying. Yeah. And I never think that anybody wants me on their show, so I never think to reach out. So at any time you guys want me back on, just let me know. Mate. Otherwise,
you've been a great guest, mate. Absolutely.
Really?
Soon.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love it. I hadn't seen your content before. Lee says you've got to see this guy. I want to get him on at some point as well. Showed me, and I'm like, this guy's great. So you do
Oh,
great
thank
stuff,
you.
mate. Great. It's different to the normal, like, where people just do like commentary. It fits really well.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you
you're
so
doing a great
much.
job, man.
Thank you. Trying my best. Trying my best.
Crazy Stew's subscribed today as well. So
Oh, really?
you're welcome.
Oh,
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah. So you now have someone following you called Crazy Stew. Well done.
Hey, I got Sam Tripoli following me. I got Eddie Bravo. I got even Joe Rogan's personal YouTube account is following me for some reason.
That's
I don't know.
amazing.
Maybe they're keeping tabs on me. Maybe I'm the next useful idiot. You never know.
Well, all we are like I think we're too much idiots to be useful idiots. But what we're trying to do is just throw hooks on the backs of people's trainers, just so when they get pulled up, we can like hold on to them.
Listen, if you go on the Joe Rogan show, just take it in a big picture of Aleister Crowley and just do us a favor, Joe. Let's just
straighten this out for
there
us.
you go.
What's going on with you?
Awesome. Well, if you just hang on after the outro and stuff like that, just so we can make sure that the audio is all uploaded and stuff, that'd be awesome.
I know the drill. Oh, the YouTube channel. I am Coach Colin.
I'm being a prick. Sorry.
The YouTube channel is I am Coach Colin. I have another YouTube channel. So I have one where I'm talking about UFOs and all sorts of wild stuff. It's I am Coach Colin. 222,000 subscribers thanks to Crazy Stew. We just hit that just today. And then the other channel is called Coach Colin TV, and that's where I kind of just relax. I use it as like an after show where I talk about things that I can't really talk about on the main channel because it doesn't fit the content. And then the website, I am Coach Colin, and then everything else is just I am Coach Colin, and the Patreon is going to be called Coach Colin TV. I've made that decision as of right now, and now I have to stick to it. So, Coach Colin TV on Patreon as well.
Awesome. Well, even though the fact that I was rude and forgot to ask you to plug yourself at the end of the show, I will make sure that all those links are in the description of the podcast as well.
Great.
So, cheers, man. Thanks for coming on.
You too. Thank you.